Kicking off our first review lesson, lesson 0.1, evaluating expressions and properties of real numbers. So looking at this, we are going to have some review on evaluating an expression must follow the order of operations, right? We've done this before. You've done this in previous classes. So when evaluating an expression, you must follow the order of operations. The first thing that you must do is anything in parentheses. That also includes anything under the square root sign. So if you have multiple operations under the square root sign, you will do that in your first step. Step 2 is dealing with any exponents. And that also includes simplifying any square roots. So if in your expression somewhere in there you have square root of 4, that is when you would simplify square root of 4 and make it 2. Step 3 is your multiply divide step. And remember that multiplication does not necessarily come before division, right? Those are going to go in order across from left to right as they come up in the problem. And number 4 is your add and subtract step. And again, just as they come up in order in the problem. Okay, so those last two, it could be subtract and then add, could be divide and then multiply. Right? In previous years, you've learned this as PEMDAS. Right? Remembering that multiply, divide, add, and subtract are grouped in the same step. So if you are given a problem like this, you are told to evaluate. That means you work it down as far as you can. In this case, we are going to be able to work it all the way down into a final answer. So we're going to start by doing a lot of substitution. I use a lot of parentheses when I substitute things in. So I'm going to put each variable in parentheses. X to the third. Well, they tell me here that x is equal to 1/2. And then I have y squared. They tell me that y is -4. And then minus z, which is 5. Right, so now I have some calculator work or math work to be doing. 1/2 to the third power. If you're going to enter that on your TI, right, you're going to put that 1/2 in parentheses, right? So 1/2, okay, like that, and then to the third power, and we're going to use parentheses around that as well. We get a decimal, 0.125. Okay, if you use your Desmos calculator, you are going to get a different you're going to have to enter that in a different way. Okay, so here I can enter it in 1/2, right? And it's going to automatically format that as a fraction. To get that exponent, then I'm going to hit this right arrow, and then I can hit this button right here, this A to the B button, and it pops it up as an exponent 1/3, like that. You could also do your 1/2 in parentheses and then go outside of the parentheses. Let me clear that out. Right, end your parentheses and then tell it to the third power. We still get the 0.125. Okay, so right here I have 0.125, And then negative 4 squared, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, and then minus 5. And then at that point, I am just going to calculator that up. If you're working in your TI, you can just hit times 16, right? It's going to use that 0.125, that 1/8. I get 2, and then I can subtract the 5, right? Negative 3 for my final answer. Okay, do not try to do this all in one step. Do not try to mental math this right from the initial and substitute and simplify and do all of that in your head as you are working. Write it down. Write it down, the substitution step, and then write down this middle step, and then work to your final answer. This one is much more complicated. So it is super important that we get things set up correctly. I'm going to start by putting my fraction bar, and the 8 is going to transfer. I'm going to substitute in my x value of 5 times y, which is negative 2, and then plus z to the third, negative 1 to the third power. Okay, my denominator then is simpler, y squared, so negative 2 squared plus 5. So from there, I am going to use that order of operations on the top and the bottom separately. So my numerator and my denominator are basically two mini problems at this point, and I will use order of operations on each one separately. Let's just knock that numerator out here real quick. So I'm going to have on the top, I'm going to have 8 times 5 times negative 2 and then plus negative 1 to the third power. Okay, so I could enter that all into my calculator. You might do it in steps. You might get here, you would get, for this part here, you would get negative 80. This part would become negative 1. And then on my denominator side, I have negative 2 squared plus 5, which gives me 9. Okay, negative 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. And then my last step would be to divide the negative 81 by 9, and I get negative 9 as my final answer. All right, so that one, again, do not try to just mental math things. For problem 3, tells us to simplify. Notice it's no longer evaluate. We are not going to get this work down to a final answer. So I am going to use some distribution here, right? I'm going to distribute this 4 to both terms inside the parentheses. Okay, I cannot do a combined like terms inside the 3a minus b. I can't simplify that. So order of operations says to start with the parentheses. I cannot simplify that, so I am going to distribute that times 4. Right, so I get 12a minus 4b plus 2b plus 6a. Right, 2 times b is 2b. 2 times 3a is 6a. And then I am going to work to combine like terms. I am going to combine the a's, right? So 12a plus 6a gives me 18a. And negative 4b plus 2b is minus 2b. Right? I cannot simplify that any further. I can't combine the a's and the b's because they're not like terms. So that is my final answer right there. The calculator is not much help on a problem like this other than if you need help with any multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? We can't enter in 12a minus 4b plus 2b plus 6a into the calculator. All right. Last example before you get started on your assignment, working with a little bit bigger numbers, some that might not be just mental math, right? So you're going to have to use a combination of brain power, calculator power, right? So 25 times 10x plus 15y. Again, I'm going to distribute here. I get 250x, right? 25 times 10x and plus 25 times 15y, 25 times 15. Okay, when in doubt, use the calculator. 375y. And now I'm going to distribute this 13 to both of these terms here. 13 times 6 gives me plus 78y, or x, sorry, right? 13 times 6x is plus 78x. And then 13 times 9 is 117. Now it's a negative 9. It's a subtraction, right? So I'm still going to carry over that subtraction minus 117y. My last step then would be to combine x's and then combine y's. So I have 250x plus 78x, right? I can calculate that up. 328x, and then I have 375y minus 117y for plus 258y. Okay, so that is some review of order of operations to get you going, and you should be able to complete assignment 0.1.